And I'm so glad that you guys are here today, and I'm excited. It's a great day because not only is it Friend Day here this morning, I love getting geared up for getting people connected in groups. I am a huge proponent of that. We've been in life groups, doing some groups in homes for years, and I'm here to tell you, it is something you won't regret, getting connected in a group. So if you are not connected in a group, you come try it out. I love some of the language that Matt used in first hour. He talked about dating a group. It sounds kind of weird to say it that way, but you're going to hear that if you come tonight, the concept of all you're doing is trying it out. And so if you're like, man, I don't know. Someone once told me, once you call your small groups life groups, so you have to be with them for life? That's a big commitment, right? To be a life sentence with this group. Well, that's not the case at all. We call them life groups because we want every group to just do life together, to enjoy being together, to build relationships together. And that's why we call it that. And God uses that to sort of grow us and take us through next steps He wants us to take. So you're going to be told tonight, if you're coming tonight, about how to date a group, and that it's just giving it a try. And if it don't work out, you don't even have to do a breakup talk. It's not you, it's me, Although that's what I use when I leave a small group. It's not you guys, it's me, I'm just teasing. Anyway, that was awkward, all right? Speaking of awkward, I discovered fairly recently, I don't know if you've noticed it in our language, in our lingo these days, we're taking nouns and using them as verbs a lot more. And I learned fairly recently that people use the word adult as a verb. In other words, I am adulting right now. Have you heard? How many of y'all ever heard of that before? I guess I'm a latecomer. A lot of you have heard of that. When I first heard that, I thought, that sounds like something immoral. I'm not going to adult. I'm just not going to do it. Then I understood that it's something, apparently younger people, maybe college or young adults will use it to say, hey, look, I'm adulting. And people are posting pictures of themselves adulting on social media. And what I've seen is buying a car, or that's really the only one I've seen, actually. I've heard that maybe paying the bills would be considered adulting. I'm like, well, adulting, I've got that down, right? So adulting. But now there's another noun that we often use as a verb that we've been using a lot longer perhaps than the word adulting, and that's friend. So we talk about friending someone. I think this has all come about because of social media, right? We'll talk about, oh yeah, I friended them on Facebook. Now, how weird would it be if you were standing at Kroger or at Starbucks and you meet someone, you kind of hit it off and you're like, you know what? You seem pretty cool. Do you mind if I friend you right now? They'll probably say, I would like for you to step away from me, or I will call the cops, But it's okay in terms of social media that we friend other people. And really, in those terms, it's not really even that intimate of a thing. We're friending them. You may not even know them, and you friended them, But I want us to talk about that concept of friending today. I want us to talk about it because we're launching a new sermon series. Starting today, we're going to be in this for about 5 weeks total. We call the sermon series Friend Request. And so if you are a friend who came because you were invited today, we kind of would love for you to keep coming, because we're going to look at what the Bible says about friendship. And I think that's very important to do that. First of all, if you don't know, the Bible does talk a lot about friendship. And I believe the reason that it does is because if we're being honest and real, most of what we do, most of our lives are completely centered around our close relationships, our friendships that we have. Friendship is a very powerful thing. Friendship influences us to do things that maybe we would have never done if it weren't for a friendship that we had. We're influenced by friendships. We're inspired by friendships. We're challenged by friendships. Some of the most painful experiences we ever have in our lives are broken friendships. And yet also some of the most glorious, amazing experiences we've ever had has been with friends in our life. In fact, the best marriages you'll ever see are marriages in which the spouses say, I married my best friend. That's how important and powerful friendship is. And as it turns out, this isn't weird to God at all. He designed us this way. If you look at the first 2 chapters of the Bible, right there in the book of Genesis, and you look at the creation account, you'll notice that every time God made something, He stepped back and said, it's good. But there was one time He said, it's not good. In Genesis 2:18, He said, it's not good that man is alone. And so God made Eve, and Eve and Adam became very fast friends. Didn't hurt that they were the only two, but they became very fast friends. Friendship is powerful, so we want to get a handle on it. I believe it's important that we get this right. And because God designed us for relationship, He wired us to need other people in our lives, then I think we ought to look to Him to get advice on this. So that's what we're going to be doing with this sermon series. Now, with that in mind, who do you think the most important person in the universe is for you to be a friend with? If there's one person that this is the one person I must make sure I friend, I must make sure I have a friendship with, who would that person be? Let me hear you say it out loud. Jesus and God. In case you're wondering, that's always the answer here at Hickory Grove. We always like to give you questions where that's always the answer. Isn't it funny how that works that way? I heard a story one time about a minister who did what's called a children's sermon in the middle of the adult worship service. So at some point in the service, he would come down and sit on a step, and all the children that were in the auditorium would come and sit down on the floor, and he would do this little children's sermon. It was usually some kind of object lesson. On this particular Sunday, it was Easter Sunday. He had a little paper bag, and he said, kids, I want you to guess what's in the bag. I'll give you a hint. It's got long ears, it's furry, has a cottontail. Little boy raises his hand and says, I want to say the Easter Bunny, but I'm going to say Jesus instead. Because we have trained everybody to know that Jesus is the answer to every question in the church building. So you're right. That is the most important person you could ever become friends with, is God. Now listen, have you ever got to thinking about what that actually is? If we're being really honest, I think that it seems impossible to be a friend of God. Friendship with God just doesn't seem like something I could even expect or want or deem possible at all. First of all, I don't feel worthy. I am not good enough to friend God. Maybe you've had that same thought. In fact, maybe this is all foreign to you to even think about being a friend of God. In fact, we just sang, I am a friend of God. As I think about that, if I've never heard that song before, and someone were to say, describe your interaction with God, describe who you are to God, I would say probably before that, I am a servant of God. I try to serve Him. I am a worshiper of God. I want to worship Him. Maybe I'm a believer in God, a follower of God. Maybe even I would say I'm a child of God. There's some verses in the Bible that describe that. And maybe if I look back in my past, before I came to know Jesus and who He is and believe in Him, I would say I'm a curious thinker of God, or maybe even that I am confused about God. But to say I'm a friend of God, I don't think it would make the top 50 lists of things I would think of, because I believe, whether we're willing to admit it or not, there is a barrier in our hearts and our minds about thinking that's even possible. Is it even possible to be a friend of God? Even in that song, I think it sounds safer to say I am a friend of God, because we don't actually talk like that usually. If I'm saying that I'm a friend of Matt's, I'll say, I'm Matt's friend, Bill, nice to meet you. I don't say, I am a friend of Matt, nice to meet you. I am a friend of Sherry. I'm actually a best friend of Sherry's. I don't talk like that. But I think it sounds a little safer and holier, because to say, hey, I'm Bill Clark, I'm God's friend. Whoa, easy, buddy. A little full of yourself, aren't you? Right? That's because we can't even fathom that would be even possible. That God would even think we were worthy enough to even call ourselves a friend of God. So there's a barrier there. And even if we were to remove the barrier of worthiness, because hopefully we're self-aware enough to say, yeah, I'm definitely not worthy to be a friend of God's. I'm not good enough to friend God. But even if we remove that barrier, and somehow, some way, we were to come to a point where maybe we would feel like, I'm worthy to be a friend of God's. I think we still have a barrier because the pink elephant in the room is you've never seen Him. Because we can't see God, it's hard to imagine and pursue a friendship with God. We've never seen Him. How do I know this? Because the Bible says so. John 1:18 says, no one has ever seen God. I don't make this stuff up. My job's easy. I just repeat to you what God says. No one has ever seen God. You know, it's hard for us to sometimes be a friend of someone we can see, that we can hear, that we can touch and use our senses to experience. There's even barriers there to prevent us from actually accomplishing a friendship with God. How in the world can we develop and pursue a friendship with someone we've never seen? We can't put a face. We can't touch. We can't experience in that way that we're used to experiencing with friends. As it turns out, this person called God that we've never seen, there's lots of rumors out there about Him, and we've never even seen Him firsthand. Some say He's awesome. Some say He's mean and cruel. Some say He doesn't even exist. He's not even real. So what do we do with this? Hopefully we would all agree that if God is indeed real, that a friendship with Him would be the most important friendship we could ever have. But if we can't see Him, how do we do this? How do we friend Him? And if God is as awesome and perfect as everyone says He is, then why would He even want a friendship with us anyway? Interestingly enough, there was a bad name that people used to say about Jesus. Now, He was pretty popular as He did amazing miracles, but there were those who didn't like Him. And one of the bad names they called Him, catch this, that Jesus, He's a friend of sinners. He makes friends with sinners. He's a sinner's friend. I'm so thankful for that bad name. Because it points us to the reality. Jesus never denied it, by the way. He didn't go say, oh, no, you don't understand. No, you got me all wrong. I didn't mean to act like I was that friendly with those people. I'm not a friend of theirs. He embraced it. He embraced it. And it's important that you understand that, because here's what the rest of John 1:18 said. I only read to you the first half of the verse, first third of the verse. No one has ever seen God, but the one and only Son, who is Himself God and is in closest relationship with the Father, has made Him known. In other words, if you want to see God, you can. All you have to do is look at Jesus. When you see Jesus, you've seen God. You're probably saying, okay, so help me out. I can't see Jesus either. I've never seen Him. Well, friends, you can catch a large, amazing glimpse of Him in the Bible. Especially Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the first 4 books of the New Testament, right there in the Bible. Today, we're only going to look at one portion of that. We're going to look at John chapter 14, the first 14 verses of that book, of that chapter of that book together. Now, to give you a little context here, we're nearing the end of the book of John in the New Testament. And when we take up our account here in the first part of John chapter 14, Jesus is basically giving a farewell speech. He has been doing life with these 12 men. These 12 men who left everything to follow Him. They've been following Him for 3 years. And whether they fully grasp it or not, He's about to do the most amazing thing ever. The reason we come and worship in this place every week, the reason someone long ago put these blocks and mortar together to provide a place for us to gather and worship, is because of this thing Jesus did when He allowed Himself to die on a Roman cross for the sins of the world. He's about to do this. They probably weren't fully grasping that yet, what was about to happen. But before any of that began to happen in John chapter 18, in John 14, 15, 16, and 17, you'll see a bunch of red letters probably in your copy of the Bible, because it's Jesus just pouring out, giving those 12 men this big kind of a farewell transition speech, preparing them for what was about to happen. So that's where we take up John 14, beginning in verse 1. And it says this: Jesus says this, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me." There you go. He's already making that connection that if you see God, you see me. "My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I'm going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. You know the way to the place where I'm going." For those of you who may be familiar with this passage, we have the amazing gift of hindsight here, and we know how the book of John ends and how the Bible ends, and we know that this is a wonderful reference to this place called heaven, that Jesus, after dying on the cross, stepping out of the grave, ascends into heaven, and He's going there to prepare a place for those who believe in Him. Wonderful, powerful passage. But again, we have the gift of hindsight here. These 12 guys are listening to this, and Thomas was the one brave enough. I always picture him raising his hand, saying, "Okay." And it says in verse 5, Thomas said to Him, "Lord, we don't know where you're going. So how can we know the way?" Jesus answered, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really know me, you will know my Father as well." There's that connection again. If you know me, you know God. From now on, you do know Him and have seen Him. There's a bold statement. It's almost like Jesus saying, you're looking at Him. You're looking at God right now. Philip was bold enough to also raise his hand and say, "Lord, show us the Father, and that will be enough for us." And oh, isn't that us? Human nature hasn't changed a whole lot. We still struggle understanding and knowing and believing. Give me a sign. If you can just show me God, then we'll believe. And Jesus almost answers as if He's hurt by that statement. In verse 9, Jesus answered, "Don't you know me, Philip? Even after I've been among you such a long time? Anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, 'Show us the Father'? Don't you believe that I am in the Father and that the Father is in me? The words I say to you, I do not speak on my own authority. Rather, it is the Father living in me who is doing His work. Believe me when I say that I am in the Father and the Father is in me. Or at least believe on the evidence of the works themselves. Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing. And they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. And I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. You may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it." It's a powerful passage. And here's what it tells us. It tells us that through Jesus, God has offered us His friendship forever. How can we develop a friendship with someone we haven't seen? Oh, you can see Him. Jesus. That's how you see God. So through Jesus, God has offered us His friendship. He says it over and over again. I'm in the Father, and the Father is in me. I am the Father in one. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. And then He points to proof, referring to what He calls the evidence of the works themselves. If you want to see what those are, again, look in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And when you look at Jesus and you catch a glimpse of Jesus, you'll see a powerful God. You'll see someone who absolutely must be God, because only the one who created the entire universe could speak to the waves and they calm down, speak to the wind and it stops. Only someone who created the universe, who oversees all the law of physics and science as we know it, could call out someone's name and they come back to life. Miracle after miracle. The lame walking again. The blind seeing again. We see all these amazing miracles. You know what else you'll see? You'll see all of that. Powerful, holy, awesome God. But you know what you'll also see? You'll see grace. You'll see mercy. You'll see forgiveness of sins. This same holy, awesome, powerful, amazing God looking straight at you saying, your sins are forgiven. That's what Jesus did over and over again. Your sins are forgiven. Your faith has made you well. Didn't matter what the past was. All it was an encounter with God Himself. when you look at Jesus, you see grace, you see mercy, you see forgiveness of sins. You see a person who maybe sometimes like you is fed up with the religious establishment of the day. Just being religious, coming up with man-made rules to live by. Those people are the ones who hated Jesus the most, and those were the ones who actually crucified him. What you'll see, though, even in the midst of all that, is someone who from the very cross, looking at the ones crucifying him, saying, Father, forgive them, because they don't even know what they're doing. When you look at Jesus, that is what you see. You see someone who knows everything about you already and loves you where you are, but doesn't want to leave you the same. When I look at all the encounters Jesus had, he met this woman at the well. And one of the things she said, of all the things to get pumped up about Jesus about, she went throughout her village. And you know what she said? She didn't say, hey, you got to come meet this Jesus who heals the blind, who heals the lame, who walks on water. I don't even know if she knew he had done all that. But what she ends up saying is, you got to come meet this guy named Jesus who knows everything about me. That's what she said. He knows everything about me. And friends, he does. This is someone who knows everything about you, who loves you where you are, but doesn't want to leave you the same. I don't know about you, but that sounds amazing. That sounds like a friendship I must have. So this morning, I want to answer this question to you today. And it's not me that answers it. It's God himself who answers it in the Bible, in his word. How do you friend God? How do you become friends with God? You become friends with God when you believe in Jesus. It's that simple. Jesus told Thomas that the way to God was through him. That's what he said in John 14. But Jesus also had another conversation with a man named Nicodemus. And Nicodemus also had a lot of questions. And he answered those questions in a very different way in what is probably the most famous verse in the Bible. Starting in John chapter 3, look in verse 16. This is what Jesus says to Nicodemus. He says, For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. There's that, I'm going to prepare a place for you forever in a place called heaven. It goes on to say, For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Whoever believes in him is not condemned, but whoever does not believe stands condemned already because they have not believed in the name of God's one and only Son. He kind of draws a line in this end. This is the most important relationship. This is the most important friendship. This is the most important decision you could ever make, is what you do with Jesus. Do you actually believe you can friend him or not? That he wants to be in a relationship with you forever? Do you believe that what he did by dying on the cross and coming back to life and ascending into heaven to go prepare a place for you there was for the sole purpose of being with you forever? If you look at this thing we call the Bible, this amazing book, and you look at it from the very first page to the very last page, you'll see one true theme that is woven throughout the entire thing. And that is that God wants a relationship with you forever. And he did everything he could to make it possible. But he won't force you to love him back. He won't force you to try to friend him back. That is your decision. And Jesus says to Nicodemus there in John 3 that all you have to do is believe in him. Whoever believes in him will not perish, but will have eternal life. Listen, don't let anyone tell you differently. Friending God, entering into a relationship with God, is a leap of faith. It requires a leap of faith. And I'm the kind of guy, I like to prove things. I like to defend God. I like to defend Jesus. I like to defend what the Bible says. And I've always been a big fan of science and biology. I believe that if you look at all that, it just invigorates faith. When you look at what God created, what we might call the laws of nature, the laws of physics, it's amazing. Someone had to design that to make that even possible. I thank God for gravity all the time. Sometimes it gets a little bit of a problem, on my back especially, on my knees especially. But gravity, buoyancy, and just looking at how our bodies work and that they actually function. You're not even having to tell your brain to pump its lungs right now because it does it for you involuntarily because that's what God made it. I love science. I love biology. It points me to God. But I'm telling you, it doesn't friend me with God. All that observation, all that logic, all that reasoning can only take you to the very precipice of possibly seeing who God is. But in order to friend Him, in order to have your life changed by Him, you must step off that precipice. You must take a leap of faith. I went through a period of time in my life. I was actually in college. I went through this time, I call it kind of my dark months. It was about a 6-month period where I questioned everything I'd never questioned before. I questioned Christianity. I questioned the Bible. I questioned God. I questioned if any of this was even real at all. It was a hard time. I look back on it, and that time was used by God to really strengthen my faith. I came to a point where I was looking very logically, as I thought I'd always done, to try to prove that He was real, try to prove that the Bible was real, try to prove that Christianity was real. And I got to the point where I was seeing, yes, it kind of is, yes, it kind of is. But I got to this point where it's like, now I can almost hear the very voice of God screaming in my heart, okay, you've got to this point, now it's up to you to jump. Either you're going to believe in me or not. What is it? All the proof in the world will fill your head with knowledge, but it won't fill your heart with faith. You must take a leap of faith. Don't let anybody tell you differently. You can try to reason all you want, and you may get even closer to God, even closer to that relationship, but you will not have a friendship with God without faith. You must take a step of faith. And the reason you must, because He won't force you. He'll speak to your heart. He'll reach out to you. This amazing thing called the Holy Spirit draws you to Him. There's something in you that knows that He's real, probably at least. There's something about what you've seen in your life that knows that you need Him. But have you believed in Him? And for some of you who have believed in Him, you may be thinking, hey, this is kind of elementary stuff. I've already done that. But don't hearing and seeing His words to Thomas and Nicodemus remind you of why you're even here in the first place? We can get so caught up in the white noise of our spiritual lives. Bottom line is the only thing that really matters is my relationship with the God who made me. It's everything. It's everything. In fact, here's the thing. Once you take that step of faith, you live differently. You no longer live your life as if there might be a God. You live your life because there is a God and He is my friend. And that changes everything. In fact, with Jesus as our closest friend, we have all we ever need. That sounds like a deal that's too good to be true, but it's real, guys. I could lose everything this world has to offer, but if I have Jesus, I'm going to be all right. I'm going to make it through. Because as it turns out, at the end of my life here, I can't take any of this with me anyway. All that matters is my friendship with God at that point. And even my friendships with others that hopefully pointed them to that God who's amazing. That's all that matters. I have all I need in Christ. And the way my journey has taught me is my friendship with Jesus influences everything else about my life. It helps me be a better friend to my friends. It helps me to be a better friend to my wife, a better father to my kids. It enriches me, it encourages me, and sometimes challenges me. But it is truly the most important friendship I have. So what's it going to be? If you're in this room this morning, lunch is approaching, you may already be thinking, what shall I eat after this? I've got many options. You may have already been thinking about the option. That's what I'm doing. And sometimes that's a hard decision, isn't it? Sometimes it's like takes us a half hour to figure out what we're going to eat. What we're going to eat around here, But I want it before, I know that's where your mind might be traveling, but for just a little while longer, I want you to ponder the most important decision in your very life, in your eternal life. Do you believe in Jesus? Have you taken that leap of faith and placed your trust in Jesus? If you're in this room and you have not, don't feel bad, feel glad, because now you have an opportunity. I want to tell you how to do this. How do you friend God? You believe in Him. What does that look like? Well, Romans 10:13 is an amazing promise. For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. When I was 15 years old, I finally got it. And I finally wanted it. And all I heard someone say is, pray the best way you know how. And ask Him, and He will save you. And friends, it's true. It's not about the words you use. There's no abracadabra, hocus pocus, boom, I'm saved, I'm a Christian, I'm a friend of God. It's not magic words. It's the faith in your heart. And by you saying, Jesus, I believe in you right here, right now. Save me. The best way you know how to say that, that's it. You're a friend of God's. You're God's friend. You have friended God in that moment. And I want to give you an opportunity to have that moment. At the end of each of our services, we always talk about next steps. What might be your next step? We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about your first step. If you're here today and you've never taken that first step of faith, I'm inviting you to do so. And all it takes is a prayer to begin that journey, a journey that will change your life. So we're going to pray. I'm going to ask you to bow your heads and close your eyes. Probably the most common prayer posture used. By doing this, we're sort of pushing aside all the distractions around us just for a moment. And I want you right where you are. If you have never friended God, if you've never believed in Jesus, if you've never asked Him to save you, I'm encouraging you right here in this place, in the quietness of this moment, in the power of this moment, ask Him the best way you know how. You can do it in your heart and mind. You can do it out loud if you want to. Nobody's going to think you're weird. Ask Him to save you, to come into your life. If you've never done that, let's settle that today. God, we come before you now in awe of the fact that you would want to be our friend, that you would want a relationship with us forever. God, I'm asking you right now to hear the prayers being lifted up. Even if there be just one person in this room that has never taken that leap of faith, I believe that you had this whole service planned and constructed for just them, so that they could come to the precipice of this moment where all they have to do is step off and believe in you. Lord, I pray that you would speak to their hearts by the power of your Holy Spirit right now and give them the boldness and the courage to pray and to take you up on your promise in Romans 10:13 and to cry out to you and say, God, save me, forgive me of my sins, and make me your friend today. In Jesus' name. Lord, I pray that if someone here has prayed that prayer, even now, that you help them to know that the weight of sin has been lifted off their soul. That they're now connected to you in a friendship that will last forever. And that you love them where they are, but you're not going to leave them the same. What a wonderful journey that they have begun in you. Help them to cling to you in that journey forever. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.